Hey, welcome to Black Belt Bots today special dojo session, okay, because we have one of my most fantastic and beautiful clients today in. She's going to talk a little bit about our process for bot creation and what that has meant to her past couple of months. And so may I introduce the lovely, the powerful, the beautiful Stacy Spensley. Hello, Stacy.
I should just have you come everywhere with me, RJ, to introduce me. That would be delightful.
That could be arranged. I do showings. Very good. So tell us a little bit, Stacy, if the folks are there don't know you already, who you are, where you're from, what you do.
My name is Stacy Spensley. I'm the semi-crunchy mama. I am normally in San Diego, California. I am currently in Minneapolis, Minnesota, admiring the white Christmas that we're going to have, as opposed to the 70-degree weather back where I live. But hey, I have two kids. I have two boys who are 4.5 and 1.5, who are delightful. And because of them, I work only like 2 to 3 days a week. But I work with parents, particularly those of young children. I teach classes, I coach, I offer workshops. And I have a fairly decent-sized Facebook group of about 2,700 moms called the Semi-Crunchy Mama Club. And so my Facebook page provides resources for parenting, like basically all the articles that I read and find helpful. Instead of just sharing them with my friends, I share them with all of the internet. And then my group is meant to be more of a, just a private space so that people can ask parenting questions. But I'm also a coach, and so we do some kind of personal development things, because I always say I was glad I was a coach before I was a mom. And so helping kind of support moms, because there's so much pressure on moms nowadays, to, give them some tools to help them overcome the challenges that we have as modern parents.
And there are many challenges. I'm so glad that it's firmly in your court, Stacy Spensley. It's a beautiful thing. Well, excellent. So, part of what you do, you offer coaching, but you also sell classes.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Can you give us a little bit on what those classes are about?
Of course. So I was trained as a health coach, but I don't really, when I was working with clients, I don't love doing the food stuff. Like some people are really into like macronutrients. And I'm like, if you're stress eating donuts, maybe let's talk about the stress portion of that equation, because maybe the donuts will just go away once we fix that section. So it's not so much about what to eat, but it's about why and how. So when I started, when I had a baby, everybody's like, oh, you're going to work with moms. And I was like, what do I know about moms? I was pregnant. I wasn't even a mom yet. And then I had my baby, and here I am, almost 5 years later working with moms. So, okay, fine. You said so, but still. So the kind of the intersection of that came up when my first baby, I've been breastfeeding for a couple of years, and I'm on my second kid. And but when it came time to feed him food, of course, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been working with these 20 and 30-year-olds who have screwed up relationships with food. I don't want that for my kids. So how do I prevent that? And I'm an obsessive researcher, which not everyone is, but I'm the person who reads the LA Times article and then clicks through the studies, and they're like, oh, that study was only 47 people, or whatever. And not everybody cares that much, which is totally fine. I don't know how to change the oil in my car because I don't care. So somebody does. I'm glad I pay him or her. When it came time for my oldest son to start eating food, I was a little bit nervous and about kind of doing it the right way, and of course, as I'm a parent longer, there's not a right way, but there's definitely better ways in some areas. And a lot of times we kind of default to whatever our parents did or whatever our friend did or whatever. So I started doing a lot of research, and I came across this idea called baby-led weaning. And so I've been teaching a class on baby-led weaning that, I would tell friends about it and they'd ask for more. And then, more friends they'd be like, oh, ask Stacy. So I'd tell them more. And so I finally developed a class. I've been teaching that class in person in San Diego for 2 years now, as of this month. And then I also have an online version that you can download, because my group is not local. And so I wanted to offer resources for people I started it for a client who wasn't local. So I wanted to make sure I had resources for people who weren't local. And as parents, I also teach a toddler class on feeding your toddler, because they get really picky and toddlery and all these things. And locally, I lead a mother circle, but that's not online yet. But I wanted to have a way for them to access this information. And I was trying to schedule things, and it's so hard to schedule with parents and across time zones. Because it's hard enough when like, let's say you work a 9 to 5 outside the home, getting when everybody's home and not eating, like, if RJ, if I want you to come to one of my classes that I'm leading, like you can eat dinner in front of the TV or in front of the computer while you watch, if you are on a live class. Like my clients can't do that because they have to feed their kids and they have to put their kids to bed at hopefully a decent hour. And so it was really difficult for me to schedule things. So I have some stuff recorded for downloads, but then also my bot has really helped me with this too.
Yeah. So. Excellent. So let's talk a little bit before and after the bot. So what was marketing your classes and your coaching programs like pre-bot?
So most of my, I'm going to mostly talk about my in-person classes just because those are more regular and I market them more. They're a little bit different. So just for simplicity's sake, but my local classes, I mostly talk about in Facebook groups because there's a lot of parenting groups on Facebook. They're very specific ones. They're local ones. And so people have come to know me as an expert in those topics and will tag me, which is great. And then I can just tell them when my next class is. I'm also an administrator for a very large local breastfeeding support group online. Mm-hmm. And as an admin, I get the privilege of being able to talk about my classes in there when we don't, because it's related to the topic and they know what I'm offering. It's not, it's considered one of my admin privileges. So I mostly talk about it in Facebook groups. But the problem is that that's a lot of time I have to spend getting tagged, seeing the tag, answering the question. So I'm on my phone all the time. My kids are like destroying my house. And I'm like, I have to tell somebody about the evils of introducing allergens at the wrong time. And, and they don't get it. They're just like, why aren't you paying attention to me? So it's time consuming, but I do love the interaction and I love supporting people that way. But sometimes I'm like, after 2 years of this class, I'm like, just come take my class. And so it was a little bit frustrating. And then also, of course, even with being able to post in my group, in the breastfeeding group, I would have to depend on Facebook's algorithm to deliver it to people. Because invariably, again, 2 years of this, every time I teach the class, the next day, or sometimes while I'm teaching the class actively, somebody's like, oh, Stacy, when's your next class? Like, I just finished teaching it. I posted about it 7 times in the last 4 days. And if they weren't on, they were on at the right time, they didn't go into the group, whatever reason, they didn't see it. So, well, I definitely have filled up classes. It's a lot of work. And I can't necessarily, in my groups, I can at least schedule the posts now. So I can't forget. So I can schedule 3 posts in a week so that, just to remind people. But in other groups that, they have Small Business Friday and I post in there, but I can't schedule those. I have to actually go in and do it.
Yeah.
So, it's sometimes I'm not posting till 11 o'clock at night and who's going to see it?
Yeah, it's true.
So, and I haven't started Facebook ads yet. I'm kind of dabbling with that because it can be so targeted, but I haven't yet. So
a lot of your marketing pre-bot basically involves your group, other people's groups, people asking targeted questions and you coming in, giving your expertise, and then also lots of announcements. Hey, I've got a class coming up over here. It's Mondays at 7. It really kind of that sort of marketing.
Yeah. And I try to give good answers in the group. Like this is your specific question. If you're still worried, I have an entire class about it. Because it is a 2-hour class and I basically talk the whole time. So I cannot give them all the information from my class in a Facebook group. They ask, but I can't do it.
No. Okay, excellent. So how much success were you having with that? Just basically group marketing, Facebook group marketing, how much?
It's pretty decent, especially once people would just tag me or refer people to my class without me doing the work. That was really helpful. But it's just a lot of hustle and a lot of and because I teach the class monthly, I'm going to go down a little bit this year, but because I was teaching the class monthly, as soon as I finished teaching the class, I had to start marketing the next class.
Yeah.
You have to plant those seeds and then remind people and then keep reminding people until they actually register. And so, people are like, oh, I'll go next month. I'll sign up later. I'll sign up after payday. I'll sign up next time at my computer instead of on my phone.
Yeah.
And then 3 weeks pass, and if they haven't heard about it again, they won't come. And so It wasn't that it wasn't successful. It's just that it was so much of the thing. I was getting bored doing the same thing over and over and over and over again.
So instead of using your brilliant, I consider you brilliant brain to get out and research more topics and have more answers for people, instead of, you know, kind of building on the front end, you found yourself doing a heck of a lot of repetitious work, a whole, like, this much hustle for this much gain, basically, with the Facebook group stuff.
And it's something that nobody else can do, because again, like in my group, like I can schedule it, or I have a friend who does some VA work for me that she can post in my group as my page, which is like helpful because she can take some things off my plate, but like she can't go in and answer questions as me. So
in the middle of all of this, what made you, you know, I think I'm the first, am I the first place you heard about bots, or was it somewhere else? Yeah. So at some point in the summer, I began screaming at you about bots. Not screaming, but politely being very firm about it.
You and Gail and I were on Zoom.
Yeah.
And no, Gail and I were on Zoom.
Yeah.
And our friend Gail Gilliland told me about this. She's like, well, RJ made me this thing. You should see it. And within 30 seconds of signing up, I was messaging RJ screaming, I need this. Where do I get one? I believe that is how I was introduced to bots, RJ.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It was auspicious. It was beautiful. So what was it that tripped your trigger? What was it that made you think this is superior to what I've been doing, or this is something I want to try? What was in your mind when you decided to go for it and say, I need a bot?
Well, one thing is that I have an email list. And I hate emailing people, because whenever I go into MailChimp, I like MailChimp, except that when I get into MailChimp, I'm like, now I must craft the best email I have ever written in my entire life.
Yeah, I know. Then, I go on.
And then I haven't sent an email in so long, and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, I have to include something useful but not smarmy, and I have to include something that's not marketing, because I don't just want to spam people, but I want them to know what classes are coming up, and now I just look like an asshole, and they're gonna not want to subscribe because I'm just sending them class information and not anything useful. But I hate emailing them because it's so complicated, so I just don't email them. Like I have people at my classes, I'm like, if you want to write down your name and email address, I'll put you on my emailing list. This year I sent 2 emails, and they were both in November. So just to warn you, like, I won't spam you, but I also might not email you. But I've had other people at my classes be like, hey, you know, this was great, like at my mother's circle, and like, you know, it's every month. And it's like, oh, great. Like, I'm not really on Facebook very much. Like, do you email about this to remind me? And I'm like, yes. Because again, like, you know, that's the thing is I don't want to send just marketing emails. I want to send helpful information, but then I have to, like, I have 2 kids and I make all of my own content, and like, I don't have time.
Yeah.
And so like, you have to like double check it and send yourself a thing. Like, it's complicated, right?
Yeah.
So the other thing is that I know after having kids, like, I'm on my phone way too much, but like, I never read my emails. I hate replying to emails on my phone. So like, I'll see them come in, but if they get buried or if they don't go into my main inbox and pop up a reminder, I'm never going to read that email. I'm just never going to do it. I'm sorry, I don't have inbox 0, but like, ain't nobody got time for that. My kids are alive. But I'm on Facebook all the time. I mean, RJ, you and I communicate by Facebook Messenger all the time.
Yeah.
And moms are like I want to say 75 to 80% of my clients are mobile.
Yeah.
95% of the time. Like, that's how we're on our phones, and we're communicating by phone, and we're getting information by phone, and we're researching by phone, and we're getting referrals by phone. And mom referrals are the best ones because none of us have time to research, so we just ask a friend. If I need my oil changed, I'm like, okay, where's the good place to get my oil changed? Just tell who does yours. I will go there. Like, that's as hard as it is. So if I can tap into the mom network, that's better. And my people are on their phones. Yeah. They're not reading emails.
So what made you trip that trigger into, I really need to do this, is frustration with the way email works. If some people love crafting a new email, and I think that's wonderful. Some people are super great at this. They, once a week you'll see a nice email with some helpful information and maybe a couple of links on the bottom, but no big deal. It's people you want to hear from. It's good stuff. But on the other hand, most of us, me included, I don't think my email list has heard from me in about a month, maybe more than that. But sitting down and getting that stuff done, it's a bit of a haul, and your open rate is not that great generally.
My list isn't huge. Like, I mean, I don't try that hard to increase it. Like, I have people sign up that I've already talked to, so like they're already clients. But I don't necessarily have something new to offer them all the time. But I want to, so like the people who haven't been to like my baby led weaning class might not, they might be new customers anyway. So they're not even getting my emails. And so then to email a bunch of people to have, 60 people open it on that's probably too high. I mean, a 20% open rate or whatever. Like, it's like, it seems like so much work for 8 people to read an email.
Right. Exactly. And so then kind of when you saw how the bots work, and the bots, if you're not, up on this, it's basically having a conversation with a business in Facebook Messenger. It's a facilitated conversation in that some of the messages are sent automatically, but there's also a lot of space for one-on-one interaction and communication. Mm-hmm. So was it when you saw the open rates of bots that you said, I need this right now? When you saw the delivery method and realized your market is on their phone all day long? Was that what made you trigger?
For me, though, really the big thing is it seemed to fit better with my branding because, like, I mean, I can get really pedantic and lectury. And like I said, I talk for 2 hours in my classes. It is a lot of information. People take, I always joke, I'm like, I'll try to be super interesting so you take notes. And people like write a lot. I'm like, I didn't think I was that interesting. There's a lot of information, but like I save that for my classes, and like the average person asking a question doesn't want a lecture. They want an answer. And so like when I, in the email, I feel like I have to like put everything in, and I can get a little bit annoying. Like I annoy myself and like, there's varying degrees of thought because it depends on your brand, but like my brand is me. Like people want the information that I have researched and my experiences and the people that I bring in and my curated content. And so for me, having Messenger be so much more conversational and personal, it's like getting advice from a friend, but I can automate it on my end so that I'm more effective and more using my time better and still able to help my clients. Because again, like there's a lot of stuff that I offer for free, and I don't care if I have 2,700 people in my group. I don't care if most of them don't ever buy anything from me. I've had people come up to me at birthday parties being like, oh my gosh, I'm in your group and it's amazing. It's such a fantastic resource. Thank you. Perfect. If they never pay me any money, I am happy for that. But I want to make sure the people that want more information are getting it. And so, to send them emails that they never read, that just irritate them because their inbox is more full and they feel more behind, that's not really serving my customer base.
Exactly.
Whereas with the Messenger, like it's fun. Like I have people telling me that they like it and like they get excited when they get a message from it, and they like it. I sent out a little survey, and like they said their favorite thing was that it's not regular. Like it's not like every Tuesday. It's like, oh, it's a fun surprise.
It's a little surprise from Stacy.
Yeah, and it's like it does take me probably to get the same information across in an email would probably be a little faster for me, but it's not as engaging, it's not as interesting, and it's not as personal.
It's true. Like there is something to receiving a message in your messenger as opposed to an email blast that went out to every single person on that list. And there is something about that. And there is also, for me, I love giving people the choice of, do you want to hear about this type of thing? Do you want to hear about this type of thing? I get to know who my people are through the bot. I have no idea who the people are on my email list. I mean, I occasionally get replies back when I ask for them, and that's super cool. And I just absolutely love it when that happens. But the amount of information that I am able to gain through a conversation with somebody on Messenger is so much better for me to decide, okay, do we move forward with this one? Do we maybe not move forward with this one? What does this person want to hear? I know so much more about what you want when I have you in a bot, as opposed to when I have you on an email list. The value is incredible.
Well, we had talked about this before, but like, you know, I know I've heard recommendations like in your emails be like, reply and tell me X, Y, Z. Like, nobody, I've gotten like 3 replies in 5 years while doing that in emails. And the other thing for me is that, like I said, I started my Facebook group for a client who lived across the country. She lived on the East Coast, and she didn't have local groups. Like, I mean, I live in San Diego. It's a big city. There's a lot of crunchy parents. We have a lot of very specific niche Facebook groups, and she didn't have that. And I was like, oh, like, it might not be a local resource, but where can she even ask questions about like any of these topics? And so that's why I started the group. But now that it's like, when it was smaller, people were engaged, but they're also a little bit more open. And now that it's like 2,700 people don't want to post their business in there, which like I totally get and I totally understand. And so it's interesting that if I ask some of the same questions, because for my first bot sequence, we used content that I already had written just because it was already done. And I'd done that I posted those questions in my group before. I have monthly themes, and I post prompts throughout the month, having people answer different questions. And some are just, for lack of a better term, like journaling prompts. So it's like something to think about, just thought-provoking questions. And some are like answers, and some are like, how do you do this? Like this month we're doing holidays. So we did like, do you do Elf on the Shelf? Is it cute or creepy? People have very strong feelings on both sides. Little Big Brother. Like, we think it's cute without the book, things like that. So, so we used the same content that I'd done before with my January Jumpstart I'd done, and posting it in the group. Like, people had really interacted and kind of checked in, and people said they really enjoyed the content, even if they didn't post about it. But when I did it in the bot, I was getting specific answers, and I was able to have it so much more personalized, because it's like, if I'm sending it to RJ, like, RJ, how are you doing on this? And I got a specific answer. And like, do you need more help with this? Do you want a reminder? Yes or no? And you can pick exactly what that is, as opposed to me having to remember to go in or having time to answer all the questions and like check all the comments in Facebook. And people were much more willing to be vulnerable with where they were struggling, because, that's such the nice thing, is that you can give them, like, with marketing, a lot of times you're like, are you the kind of person who X, Y, Z? And if the answer is no, like, I might still be their client, but they asked the wrong question. Whereas in the bot, you're like, are you the kind of person who needs, who does this? And if the answer is no, you can just send them on a different path. Like, yeah, awesome. Tell me about
You
that.
can stop talking about what they don't want to hear about and start talking about something else. It's so fantastic.
Yes. Okay, let me give you some advice. Do you struggle with this? No. Awesome. Tell me your secrets, because other people do. Exactly. Because like, they get a win.
And that's what one of the things is about coaches, is that, you have to have a Facebook group if you're a coach, right? Well, not necessarily, but a lot of folks are just trained and taught that from the beginning. If you're a coach, have a group, and then, kind of pop questions in there, little thinkers, little, ponderers, that sort of thing. What happens is that the bigger your group gets, which is a sign of your success, the less personal people are willing to be, because it's not one-to-one, it's one-to-many. And many, many people are going to read that who don't know you. So the bigger your groups get, the less personal those answers get, and the less participation you get on those threads. So it's almost like you have success, and it screws you a little bit. And then you don't get that personal stuff back from people. In a bot, it's a one-on-one private conversation. It's you, me, and the fence post. I'm going to ask you a question, and you're right. I had Accountabilibot. I had people really talking to me, and it was a beautiful thing, because it was like, I have not gotten this much response back from anything I've done ever. Like the first time I happened upon it, I was like you. It was like, well, this is it. This is the next wave of it. So I'm gonna stop talking because this is really about you talking. It's not about me talking, but
Well, I think that was really interesting is when I did my first bot sequence, because you can have sequences, you know this, RJ, but like you can have sequences that are kind of like email autoresponders. And so it's people kind of go, it's like a little choose your own adventure, and then you can schedule things so you send it, you know, in an hour and have it be like a 1 day thing. You can send it over the course of a month, like every week or anything in between. And so I did this first one, and you know, I was just asking people some simple questions, just to, you know, get them warmed up, get them used to using the bot, all these things. But I was finding out information, like my friends were doing this, and like that was like really helpful feedback because they were like, it's just like you, which was great. But they were, you know, they were answering the questions, and I was finding out things that they struggled with that I had no idea. And these are friends of mine I talk to regularly.
exactly.
Like they felt safe putting it in there because it was just kind of into the ether, even though I can read it. So that was super cool.
Nobody else.
So again,
nobody else is going to get in there and
right.
read their personal business either.
Right.
I think that's a huge selling point for, you know, we talk, you've probably seen this, Stacy, as a Facebook person. You market yourself on Facebook. You've probably seen the warnings this week, that there are certain types of posts now that if they see this in your timeline, boop, your page gets ranked down. And it's the tag a friend if they'd like this particular sweater or whatever it is, you know. We all, Facebook is continually trying. Now they're a huge corporation and they're, you know, they're fabulous. I love them, except when I don't like them, but we won't talk about that right now. You know, they're constantly moving us toward develop authentic relationships with people. Mm-hmm. Don't spam people. Stop spamming people with these tags, with these if you like, you know, rock and roll or whatever it is. They're constantly streamlining that process toward a more personal communication. And they opened it up for business when they opened it up for Facebook Messenger bots, because you know, there are a lot of people that subscribe and unsubscribe right away, that's fine, because the people that stick, I develop a far more personal relationship with, and it's about knowing that it's know, like, and trust, right? Over and over again, know, like, and trust. You can develop with a bot so quickly. So I'm so passionate about this that I kind of go off a little bit sometimes. I'm just gonna ask questions.
It's really how often we talk about this topic, just with no audience. I think that's totally reasonable.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, so we know what made you want to invest in creating one, because you saw some possibilities there there's some contact you weren't currently getting in your already successful business. So what was the process like for you building the bot with me? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
It was super easy because RJ did most of the work. It was fantastic. I highly recommend that method, you guys. You just have RJ do it. It's way easier. So I also have RJ's class, which is really, really helpful. It is like all you will ever need to know about bots. And then like basically it's called that because it's true. But I think it was really great to work with you on the beginning, because now you have the templates, which you didn't have when I started. But I think the templates would have probably been a good start for me as well. It would have been a different option. But it was really, because it's a little bit different writing for bots. It's like writing a novel versus writing a play, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like it's a different flow. And I love how your class really breaks down the best way to structure those with your information. And it's also been different because since I've done my first one, I've also done some new ones where I'm writing the content for the bot from the beginning. And so that's a little bit easier because I'm starting with that mindset as opposed to taking other content that was an email autoresponder and trying to parse it down into bot. Because you do have to be a little bit more, like you can't have a long paragraph with a bot. Like it's just too much information. But you can break that paragraph down. So it really makes me kind of boil down the essence of what it's a pamphlet, not a book. You really have to boil down what you want to get out of the bot. But it's fun because it's also like giving directions with a lot of signposts, because there's a lot of options. It's like, well, you can take the back way or you can take the freeway, and so letting people kind of decide those for themselves. And so they've made some development since then as well within the bot software, where you can, like, before you had to kind of do it page by page, and now you can kind of do more of a mind map, which is really cool because for me, like, I like to do it in order first because my brain works that way. But then when I can zoom out to the big picture and see kind of like the world view, it's really helpful to see kind of the path that everybody will take. So for me, like, having you to really hold my hand through the beginning process was really helpful because it is so different. And then I feel like it shortened the learning curve for me so that I didn't have to mess it up to learn what not to do. Because I felt like you kind of done that for me. Not that you messed up, but that you'd played with it more and figured out what worked and what didn't. And so that was really, really helpful because, again, I only work 2 or 3 days a week. And so, like, if it takes 3 days of, like, 3 full days to build a bot sequence, that's great, but that's my entire week. And I can't touch it again for 5 days. Mm-hmm. So being able to have you help me and make some minor tweaks with me, or just, you doing the big stuff and me just kind of editing it was super, super convenient. I think if I could make myself into a different person, because if we went back in time, it wouldn't help because the technology was different. Right. I think I would probably start with one of the templates, mm-hmm. but I would probably still have you help me implement it at first.
Yeah. So what we did, for audience members out there, what we did was we took some material that Stacy already had. So it was, an onboarding process, some coaching, coaching health types, tips, and tricks. And,
it was like a challenge.
Yeah, it was a challenge. So we took all of the material that she had already written, and it was in the email format. We took it, we crunched it into, we made it a lot more concise and put it into a conversational format, which is very different to write for. And so, like you said, novel versus play, that's a really great analogy. We put it into a more concise format and then, released that. And that was the first, sequence that we did. I know that you're further along now. This was like summertime when we were doing this. So what have you got going on right now? What has your success been?
So people loved that. I mean, some people, it's a little bit too much. I'm thinking about revamping the one we've already done to make it like a month-long challenge. Because I've learned, because when I did it before, I wasn't working with parents. And again, I've done it in my group, but I did it over the month. And I think it's just a little bit too fast for parents because you can't implement those changes as quickly because invariably one of the kids is sick or, somebody goes to bed late and like everything is terrible. So I want to work on it because that's the other thing I love is like once you send an email, like it's gone. Well, this like it's dynamic and changing and like you can tweak things. Like, you can just shift things and be like, oh, I'm going to change that. And like when I launched the bot originally, it's like a 5 days. It's over a week. I didn't have to be done with the last few days. I only had to be done with the first 2 because I could finish the other days as people went through. I mean, we tested it and stuff like that. But, as I got feedback, I could change it on the fly and they would just get something different, which I love. So also, I just want to mention that since then, in addition to sequences, I've also done some broadcasts. So the sequences are like autoresponders. So you sign up. It's it's like when you go and like download my freebie, and then you get the week-long course or whatever. So this is like you send them to sign up for this particular sequence. And oh, RJ, I have lost you.
Uh-oh.
I will keep talking just in case. But for the sequence, then they get the whole thing delivered and whatever. But then there's also what's called a broadcast, which is like a one-off kind of message. And I mean, people have enjoyed, like I have to ask people to sign up for the sequence. When they message my page, they can have the option. But these broadcasts are for people who are already signed up. I can send little missives. And so sometimes I will send like a reminder that my class is coming up for the month. And then if you want to sign up, you should do that. Other ones, I'll just send like a little story or like I sent like a little like breathing meditation gift one day because I was like, my kids were driving me nuts. So I was like, if you are having a rough day, here, just this is for you in case you need it. If you don't, no big deal. And I had several people write back and be like, oh my gosh, I needed that. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And so you just send these little broadcasts. And my broadcasts, I have my lowest open rate is 84%.
Yeah.
Like that's like unheard of in email.
84% just for an open rate. That's amazing.
And so I've had some broadcasts that I've been doing that have been really well received. Of course, you have to have good content, but like it doesn't have to. That's the thing is, I don't sit down and think I have to write War and Peace. I can just send like a little tiny story that people can read during their day to be like to remind them that I'm around and that I care and that I provide resources for them.
Yeah.
And then let me see if RJ can message me.
We're having technical
and then folks. I lost you. For sequences, what I'm working on for January right now. Excellent. RJ is still there. I just can't see her. Confusing. So I'll just keep talking until she takes us off or comes back. So for sequences, what I'm working on for January is I have 2 courses. One is going to be about toddlers. Oh, there's RJ. You're back. Hooray. And I can hear you. You just vanished.
I don't know what happened there. I'll not talk about technical difficulties. Please continue.
I was like, unless you tell me you're not, it still says live. I'll just keep talking. It's what's one of my strengths. Oh, now I see the chat with your host link. Anyway, so I have 2 classes coming up in Q1, and so I'm actually going to, because for me, like I download all sorts of e-courses, so many of them, and then they just sit there. Some of them, like I download the freebie, I never even open it. You know, it's like they sit in my email and rot. Yeah. Or I don't implement them or whatever. And so for my courses, I'm going to deliver the content via bot. So I'm going to remind people to sign up. I mean, I'll put stuff in my class, in my group and stuff too. But I'm going to deliver the content via bot so that you don't have to remember to check your email. Mm-hmm. It'll just get delivered to you during the day, and then you can do it. And the one thing I also really like with the bot is like if you're reading a longer email and you get interrupted, you have to close. You know, your browser crashes. You have to close the window. You know, whatever. You never remember where you were. Whereas with the bot, if you just stop responding, it pauses.
Yeah,
it just waits for you, and you can start over. So, and you can just scroll back. So I want to, and like I'll have like a PDF summary of the content and whatever, but I want to deliver the content of my class so that it's interactive, so that people are actually engaging with the material and actually doing it, and I'll know. Because then I can be like, hey, RJ, it looks like you haven't opened today's, or you haven't interacted with the last 2 days' stuff. Like, are you just waiting, or is there something I should change? You know? And so it'll be like a delivering, like the beginning of the week, they'll get like the goal for the week and like a little video through Messenger so they can just watch on their phone at their convenience. And then they'll get reminders throughout the week via bot, like, hey, have you tried this? Have you incorporated this? Like what's been most helpful? And I'll get live feedback to see if so that's the thing is if I need to shift gears, if I'm not delivering what they need, like, okay, maybe I'll decide, okay, we're going to switch weeks 2 and 3 around. Because it sounds like you guys need week 3 more than you need week 2 right now. And you'll still need week 2, so we'll just do it later.
Well, and that's the thing. Are you getting an echo?
I am not.
You're not? Okay, good. So I'm just going to keep talking through it. Yes. So that's the thing I have found. So as a coach myself, I've got my online classes out there. You know I do. We all do. What do you think would happen if every person who bought your class, you buy the class and then you make it through a little part of the day and then something interrupts you, like a small child who might want some food. I don't know, something interrupts you and you never get back to content that you've paid for. The bot, if you deliver this stuff through a bot, then people, the bot notices you haven't interacted in a while, send you a little reminder ping, those kinds of things that it's so much more adjusted to your lifestyle. For me, so many more people are making it through my classes. So many more people are then recommending my classes because, of course, they got a lot out of it if they made it all the way through to the end. So if you're a coach, think about what Stacy's saying and, see if you can't apply that to your own situation. It's an amazing thing when people actually want to read what you're sending them, when they want to view it, and when it's adjusted to their schedule and not, okay, here's the link online. Good luck. I
have a friend who's a fitness coach, and she had a woman in her group program that wanted to quit the program because she's like, well, I'm not sticking with it. And she's like, and for my friend, she was like, well, like, what did I do? And I was like, well, you can't make her do this stuff. But it sounds like she needs more accountability than a group program. And that's what you're offering is a group program. And all I could think of is she just needs a bot to remind, because she also works full time. So she's coaching, evenings and weekends. She doesn't have time during her day job to be messaging people being like, RJ, did you go to the gym like you said you would? But her bot could. And she can just check in on it later.
Yeah.
And so it's also adding like that high touch value that your customers want and need, but you don't have to actually necessarily, and I'm not saying you don't check in on them, but you don't have to remember to send it. You just have to remember to check the answer.
Right. Exactly. And then you get drawn into the conversations that you need to have rather than pulling out your phone in the grocery line and going, okay, I got to text that person because they said they were going to do this thing. Yeah. People want the high touch, but the sacrifices that you need to make if you're a coach needing to give those high touch experiences, they're too much.
And I know for my clients, like they're really, I appreciate they're very respectful of boundaries, and like they also like email feels so formal sometimes that they will not they won't want to email me and bug me.
Right.
But messengers feel so casual that it's just like hey, like if you're not around, like you won't answer.
Yeah.
Whereas like email, I feel like you need office hours,
Yeah, exactly. So what is, compare and contrast marketing your stuff before, your coaching in your classes, compare and contrast marketing that stuff from before the time we started talking about bots, sorry, before bot, contrast that with after bot.
What's pre-bot and post-bot? So I think beforehand, like I had to make sure, like I was fighting the algorithm. Like I had to make sure that I was offering things that people could see, or I had to pay them a bunch of money. Because I mean, if you do Facebook ads, that's like a whole different ball of wax. But I'm not doing that yet. So, but after bots, like I'm finding so many opportunities. It's like I have like so many ideas, like so many opportunities to really walk people through the process of my personality, what it's like to work with me, and then also offering them value. I mean, like, and if you want more, here are the ways you can work with me. As opposed to like having like go for my Facebook group and either posting my own stuff or sending them to my website with my offerings. And this, because again, it's so dynamic that they can just answer me and I know what they need. Yeah. And so that's the thing is like, if you're doing one of my bot sequences and like it's helpful to you, great, but you want more, like you can do that and you can pay to have the real me.
Yeah.
Me in my bot. And people have asked me some really great questions. I'll be like, oh, by the way, Stacy, like, what about this? And so it'll page me and then I'll be like, oh, that's really a great question. Here, this is, some more information. And they're like, oh, thank you so much. It's like, and it's not like, let me Google that for you, but it's like, hey, what do you think about this? But then also, what was I going to say? Oh, I lost my train of thought on that one. Sorry. But people are, if they're giving responses of like, that was another thing. Like if they're failing at the bot sequences, like maybe they need more one-on-one support. And it's like, hey, if you really want to do this, but you're having a hard time doing it on your own, like that's what coaching is for.
Yeah.
And again, it's not like, I think everybody should get coached because I think it's a great experience. But like, I'm not being like, you should hire me. It's like, oh, well, it sounds like you need more support. And I offer that and would love to help you if you want it.
Yeah.
So it's also helping me determine like who really needs coaching and like what are their struggles. So then when I write my next coaching offer, like what can I use in marketing terms? Like what are people really struggling with? Because I have case studies, even if they're not even my clients yet.
Exactly. So in the first kind of comparison is, so much more about the people who are, kind of in your circle, the people who you are figuring out, would this be a good person? Would this be a good coaching relationship to start? You have so much more information to base that decision on.
Yeah. And I definitely get people who like they found it through my group, but they aren't necessarily active in my group because again, they're working, they have kids, they're busy, and they don't necessarily have like, if the algorithm doesn't show it to them, they're not going to necessarily go into the group and scroll, but they still find the content useful. So if I can put that in the bot so that I send it directly to them and they don't have to go and look for it, it's really helpful and convenient. And again, and if they don't like it, they can unsubscribe. No hard feelings.
No. Has it made a sales impact?
That I can't say 100% for sure because I feel like the things that I've been selling and the things I admit with my recent bot ideas, I have like 3 half-developed things that I worked on and have not finished. And that's my fault, not yours or the bot's fault. So, but we have talked about tweaking some things, but most people have already done my first sequence. So for me, it's simplifying and making some different sequences, which like, I have to like set out to like, I have to like frame them out and then like actually go in and write them and test them and all these things. And it's not, as content goes, it's not super time consuming, but I still have to actually do it. And this month has been like insane in my life. So, I'm definitely seeing ways that I can make them more impactful that I have not yet done. Because I feel like my first one, like it wasn't necessarily a natural, like it felt like so much information to have like a harder sell at the end felt disingenuous.
Yeah.
But I'm going to stretch it out over the month. And then I think at the end, it'll be like, hey, if you enjoyed this and want more support, this would be a great time to think about some coaching. And if you'd like to do that, here's how you can contact me. Just, you can schedule a call here. Whereas before it felt like that felt a little bit like too much after like 7 intense days of content.
Right. And the bot that you're building is, it'll vary bot to bot what the call to action is, how much information you're giving in a day. The thing that I really love about your bot is that, you go through that initial sequence, which is currently like 8 days, I think, but you're stretching it out. It sounds like you go through that initial sequence, but there are opportunities in there for you to do a broadcast, and like the one that you did the day after Halloween. You're like, so do you have a lot of candy sitting around the house? I have a lot of candy sitting around the house. This is how I get that through that particular hurdle. Like super timely information that is in their pocket, and it's Stacy's personality. It was so perfect, what you did there, and the engagement that you get continually on your bot, even though you've just got one sequence up right now. As you've said, you've developed 2 or 3 that are going to lead to more sales gains and online registration and stuff like that. But what you've got right now is an interested group of people that are continually looking for Stacy Spensley, what she got to say. Isn't that what we all want?
Well, and also right now I'm doing a launch program with a friend who she's great. But it's framed as like, here's how to develop your freebie into your offer, into like the nurture sequence to get people to sign up for your offer, right? And so she's doing it through email because that's what people do. And I went back and forth because I was like, well, it's easier for me to follow her course if I do the emails. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it in the bot. This is the toddler class I'm going to deliver through the bot. So, because I'm like, then I will have trained them to use the bot already. Then when they get the course content, it won't be jarring. And like, it's so like, once I kind of got my head wrapped around that, it's great because then like I can deliver my freebie that way. And then I can broadcast to them, like remind them, like ask them how things are going, if they've implemented any of the stuff, like what they want more of. And then, hey, by the way, like, if you're doing well with this, I'm going to have more information like this coming up in my class. If you're not doing well with this information and you're struggling to implement it, I have a class coming up that will help you implement these things.
Yeah.
And I'll have a couple weeks in between where, I can send a few broadcasts as well, in general or specifically targeted to them, to help remind them that registration is coming up.
Yeah.
Or I can add them to like, a smaller bot list of like, like a wait list, or like, are you interested in like, do you want to know when it goes live, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So there's so many possibilities. I think once, like, it seems like, it seems like only for bigger companies, or like, it's like almost like an automated phone answering message, like, choose one for English. It's like when you kind of get away from thinking about it as impersonal or only for the big guys. Because I've seen it, we talked about a really good example the other day about like a clothing company that had like a really good way to connect with the company through their bot. And like, I don't sell specific products, but like just a way of like, hey, what are you interested in? Are you interested in resources? Do you want to talk to Stacy? Are you interested in her classes? Because I can also like, it's just an easy way for me to be like, you can message me and just type in events and it'll tell you my next classes.
Yep.
So you don't have to remember.
Yeah. Because like, nobody does.
Well, it's like the telling, the okay Google, search for this. It's, hey bot, tell me what I need to know. And I don't have to do any work. My bot does it for me. So,
well, that's awesome. I'm so excited to see what it's going to do in the future, because you have a large audience of people who are connected to what is happening with Semi-Crunchy Mama Bot. And it just, I love, I'll get in there and I'll look at your statistics and your open rates, your click-through rates and everything, especially on those broadcasts. It is just so cool to see your audience loving your interactions. So great success. So where can people find you, Stacy Spensley, if they want to find a Stacy on the internet?
Well, you can go to facebook.com/semicrunchy-mama, and it's MAMA, mama. And you can find my bot there. It's super cute. It's brilliantly designed and enjoyable. Also semicrunchymama.com, and my Facebook group is the Semi-Crunchy Mama Club, which if you search for that, it will come up.
Beautiful.
And yeah. So it's been super fun. I just love getting the feedback, and like even like good friends that I see frequently, like when I send out a broadcast, like, they're like, oh my gosh, I love your bot so much, So it's like people who do have access to me, who they know where I live. They can just come to my house. They still enjoy the bot because it is like just a fun cartoon version of me giving them information that they actually want. So it's been really fun. The live feedback is so great. And just, I sent a broadcast out, and, and I'll get feedback of like, oh, hey, I really want to come to your class next week, but, I'll be out of town, but I'm going to try to make the next one. And then I'm like, okay, like, remember to remind, and like just getting that like they wouldn't post on a Facebook post or event, but they will respond to me in Messenger. So.
Beautiful. As Stacy mentioned, I want everybody that wants a bot to have a bot. I've got templates that you can buy, plug and play templates that you can buy. They're easy. I've got a class. It's an online class. Take it at your own pace. That is happening. And I also have packages where you can pick up a template or a class and pick up a certain number of hours on my schedule, because you're going to have questions. I've got the answers. Don't dig around for them. So if you're interested in any of these things, you can find an RJ at blackbeltbots.com. You can message me on my Facebook page, Black Belt Bots, or you can join the Black Belt Bots community, which is a fabulous place filled with people who are interested and working on bots. So
I highly recommend the RJ.
Thank you. Very good. So I'll be back next week, 1 o'clock Central, Tuesday and Thursday. I will have fabulous live streaming topics. Please bring your questions, bring answers if you have those too. And thanks for joining us today. We will see you later on. Say bye-bye, Stacy.
Bye.